two things quickly before we begin. First of all, getting this information out, making our citizens aware of it. While our Squamish relative was starting us off in a good way, thinking back when Grand Chief Stephen Point was teasing us by calling us all FBIs, calling us Facebook Indians, because we all use that to get messages out in a broad way, right? And the Office of the Special Interlocutor does have a Facebook page, but we need more followers on it. For those of you that are on Facebook and interested, if you search OSI-BIS, their Facebook page will come up. It will be populated with more information. Keep in mind, this is a fairly new organization yet. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take a panoramic picture and post it on that Facebook site when I get a chance. This information and storytelling is so important. So our next piece of business, and giving all of our presenters as respectful as possible, a heads up, not a warning. Like Gwen and I have the responsibility of getting us through the agenda over the next 2 days. There are time limitations, and that's one of the hardest things we have to do is limit speakers' time. But I'm compelled to share that with anybody and everybody because everybody's got important messages and information to share with everybody that's here, acknowledging all of those that are online as well. So maybe starting with this panel, if you see me or Gwen come up to the podium and speak here, it's like a 1-minute warning to wind down. Don't have to stop, but wind down as quickly as you can, please. So our first panel is regarding the voices of survivors in importance of data sovereignty and access to records in the search and recovery of missing children. It's my pleasure to introduce the first panel. Charlene Bellew is from Eskedem First Nation in central BC here. Karen Andrews from Prince George in northern BC. And Wilbert Papik from Aklavik, Northwest Territories. Turn it over to Charlene first, and each speaker has about 15 minutes each, but we're done this event at 10 a.m. Charlene.
Wait, Cochwairip. Spew A. Gusent Nachen. Can I have the PowerPoint up, please? Eagle Star Woman and Squext, Charlene Bellew. I want to thank you for the opening prayer and the welcome this morning. Very powerful. Our ancestors predicted our time with the Kalmuch, with the people, with the white people, with other races of the world. I want to share with you 6 short slides that gives you a glimpse of our sacred journey to find our missing children. I attended St. Joseph's Mission Indian Residential School for 4 years. My parents, my grandparents attended St. Joseph's Mission as well. We have researched to understand the history of St. Joseph's Mission and to heal. My grandpa committed suicide in 1920 at St. Joseph's Mission, and he's buried there somewhere. The details of Grandpa's suicide is articulated in this book, Victims of Benevolence, released by the Caribou Tribal Council. As a former student and advocate for 30 years, we always knew our children and families had children that never came home, but no one believed us. This is a picture of St. Joseph's Mission in Williams Lake. This is the pipe band that I was a part of. Instead of learning my traditional language and traditional dances, we were learning Scottish music, traveling across the country to show how Scottish we were. I think about it. It was silly. In 1989, and this is some of our journey for us to find the truth, for me to find the truth. In 1989, the Caribou Tribal Council conducted research on St. Joseph's Mission and held the first national conference here in Vancouver. That research got our people to think about what happened to us at the school. What do we think we need to do to heal? How do we want support from our leaders? We also had criminal prosecutions in the late 80s and early 90s of perpetrators at St. Joseph's Mission that included former Bishop O'Connor, that fathered many children and children that never came home. In 1994, we developed a protocol to establish an RCMP task force that would investigate 14 residential schools in BC. That included missing children. In 1996, we established the Provincial Indian Residential School Project, now known as the Indian Residential School Survivors Society, and they have many health supports here to take care of our people that are visiting this week. As early as 1997, I had received reports of missing children at Indian residential schools from the Regional Director General here in BC. 1997, we held our own Alkali Residential School inquiry. We didn't wait for the governments, we didn't wait for the churches to call an inquiry. We had our own inquiry at Alkali Lake. It was the first time we had heard about our children being flogged, and basically they would put them up on wooden beams and take a strap from the harness of horses and hit them until they blacked out. That was extreme, violent acts of abuse against our children. 2004 and 2010, I moved on from my own experience, tribal council experience, provincial experience, to the national stage, where I had the opportunity to be of service to survivors across the country in work with the Assembly of First Nations and also a part of the Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement. Today, I've moved on to be back and grounded in Williams Lake, where I'm a part of the investigative team searching for Grandpa and all other children that never came back from the residential school. There's many ways we chose to heal, not only individually, but collectively as families and as nations that attended St. Joseph's Mission. In these three pictures here, the first one, all of our nations, the Chilcotin, the Secwepem, the Tekiao, other nations came together for a unity ride. They took our children away in wagons, horseback to the school. We used that as an opportunity to heal. All of our nations came from their respective communities, from Alkali Lake, from Anaheim, from Redstone, from Quesnel, and all came together at St. Joseph's Mission on horseback to take our children's spirit back home. Very powerful ceremony. We spent 3 or 4 days together camping, listening, and supporting each other. On the bottom right-hand picture, we had a grand entry of all of the horseback riders. Our chiefs were a part of this grand entry of horses and coming to take our children home. You see a riderless horse there. That riderless horse signified our children that never came home. We came to take them home as well. In the top right-hand picture, I've had the opportunity to participate personally in a lot of my own healing about Grandpa, connecting with horses. So I went to equine therapy as a part of my healing. The horses have a spirit and a strength that we needed, and I went to the horses. So this is one of the ways, and this is way back in 2007, and since then there have been many other rides and many other events. Fast forward to today, I have the opportunity to be of service directly within the province. There are 18 residential schools in the province and 3 Indian hospitals throughout the province. Many of our children not only attended one residential school, but they attended maybe 2 or 3. Some of our children went over to Alberta for school. Some went into the Yukon. So we all need to be able to work together in the work that we're doing to find our missing children. Some were sent from the residential school to the Indian hospitals and never came home. Again, we need to work together to help bring those children home that didn't come back from the Indian hospitals. Again, just the importance of working together, collaboration. I work with the province of BC as a part of their Ministry of Indigenous Relations section to coordinate the province's response to the 18 residential schools and 3 Indian hospitals. Each one is doing their own work within the province. There's 21 lead communities here, and many of you are in the room today, and I acknowledge and I honor the work that you do as frontline workers, finding your missing children. I started at the beginning with the quote that our ancestors predicted our time with the Kalmuch. We all say that our children and our grandchildren are our future. A respected spiritual leader from Alkali Lake was given this vision by our ancestors while fasting in our mountains. He told us that our ancestors predicted our time with the Kalmuch. They gave us the Sikane ceremony to let go of the past so that our children can have a stronger future. It is done at the beginning of gatherings to show our intentions to move forward, not to be victims of government, of churches, and no longer inferior to Semites. Semites is white people in our language. Our ancestors fasted and prayed on the mountain for the challenges that we would face and gave us the Sikane ceremony to heal. The Sikane ceremony is for our children, that regardless of colonization or residential schools, we are loving and forgiving Secwepemc people. Our resiliency is strengthened through the Sikane dance and ceremony so that our children will stand with the rest of the world. Our missing children are our ancestors too. They are with us every step of the way as we search to bring them home. Our ceremonies and traditions will continue to be our strength and guide our search for our missing loved ones. Again, our ancestors saw our relationship with the Kalmuch and gave us medicine to thrive, gave us medicine to survive, and gave us medicine to thrive. Your ancestors gave you all and your nations medicines to heal during these challenging times. Our ancestors walked for fasting. There have been many walks. They gave us the healing spirit of the horses. Many have rode horses. Our ancestors gave us the healing spirit of the waters, and all animals and plants continue to go to the mountains and to the water for strength. These medicines bring us together to work together and continue to hold one another up. You're here today because the ancestors chose you to do this work. The ancestors knew that you would have the strength and the courage to find our missing children. I asked Stephen Point last night to let his auntie know that we're going to find her relative and to trust that we are going to do the right thing. I've been at this work for about 35 years. I intend to find my grandpa in my time. And I want to just thank you for taking time to listen to the story that I have. And with my few minutes that I have left to wrap up, I'm going to move to action and ask you to join with me. I'm going to go down to the empty chair and speak to my grandpa and sing a song so that he knows I haven't forgotten him. So please join me. Testing, 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 testing. Great-grandfather, creator of all good things, I pray to you and I thank you for this beautiful day. Great-grandfather, I pray to you through this sage to be able to give us the strength we need to do the work that we have to do for our families and for our communities. Great-grandfather, I come to you today to speak to my grandpa. Grandpa, I want you to know that we haven't forgotten you. Grandpa, I'm sorry for everything that happened to you, the flogging that they did to you. I know that all of you had a suicide pact, but only you died, Grandpa. I wish they were able to save you. Mom never talked about this because she went to residential school. But I forgive Mom because she didn't want us to hurt. I'm glad, Grandpa, that we're able to do research. I thank my great-grandpa for writing letters to the government to ask what happened to you, why they didn't bring you home to bury you. They just buried you somewhere at the residential school. I let Grandpa know that we're going to find you.
will bring you home to bury you with the dignity and respect that you deserved. Grandpa, we love you. We'll never forget you. I just pray to you, Grandpa, to give us all the strength that we need to do this work. We'll heal, Grandpa. We'll be stronger. Grandpa. Great grandfather, creator of all good things, pray to you and I thank you for this opportunity to heal together in this conference. I pray to you to keep our ears open, our eyes open. Great-grandfather, again, I just thank you. I want to sing Jeannie's healing song. Through Jeannie's healing song, she left us. I pray to you for all of us in the room today to be able to have strength for the work that we have. Continue to bless and guide us.
Yeah, I also wanted to be a 6-footer here, so now I could see you all, recognize some of you, and I'm glad my daughter's here. Those were some powerful words, brought tears to my eyes. My name is Wilbert Papik. And I'm originally born from Inuklavik, Northwest Territories. That's where I started residential school in the early or late 50s. And then they were just building Inuvik then, and their Catholics had one residential place, and the Anglicans had another residential place. I don't know why they would, divide people, just because of their religion, Yeah, my first 2 years at the residential school in Aklavik was pretty rough. I was only 9 years old when I started school. My dad had a camp out in the Delta. That's where he trapped from, and we lived. I thought I was going to go up there forever, and until one day we were in the Clavic, and then they brought me to this big building, and they're talking to this white man there. And my dad said, you got to go to school. You got to learn how to write your name. But, you know, that was, I just said, okay, you know, think nothing of it. But I said, I wouldn't miss my trapping. My dad showed me how to trap at a young age. My sister and I, we used to walk, and we would bring home minks. And I had a dog team, 6 dogs, that I traveled with my grandmother in the wintertime. My dad had a 50-foot schooner. Everybody said he was a wealthy man because, you know, he could travel around anywhere, anytime. But he did that. He also picked up people that didn't have any boats. They'd take him down to the coast for whaling. But then in the fall, I would have to go back to residential school. I thought I went there 1 year, but when we were filling out claims, my brother told me, he said, oh, we went there 2 years in Clavic. Like it must be 58, 59. It is pretty rough there, you know. One side was girls' dorms, and one side is boys. And the younger ones stayed in one room, and the older ones, and so forth. I witnessed some stuff there that was pretty hard. The young kids that wet their bed, they got a strapping with a big strap. And you told them, don't pee again, you know. But, you know, some kids, I know they can't help it. And then they opened up the residential schools in UVic. And I first went there when I was in grade 4. And, you know, I was okay. I think my dad told a guy in a Clavic that he had to take care of me, so he did. And then when I went to residential school, my dad had contacted TB, and he was hospitalized in Edmonton. And then I heard that my mom come and told me that my dad passed on and had a heart attack. They're going to bury him out there. But I didn't know where. We didn't know where. Like I know 1 year, I was 17, and the first time I went down south, you know, I was really floored by the size of the city of Edmonton. You know, up and down in elevators and escalators, and, you know, and then ordering milkshakes, you know, and whatever. But then we drove down, camping down to northern California. That's where I saw the real big trees the first time. You know, it's just like giants standing beside me, and you know we're camping under a big hill. Oh, it's going to roll down on you, and it was. But we went back to Edmonton. I stayed there for 3 days, and with a guy, a friend of theirs. We went to Charles Campbell and asked where they buried my dad, and they said they didn't know. And we went to the Anglican church. We asked, no, they didn't know. I don't know why they wouldn't tell me or the guy. I don't know if they had any information. So, we all, past 60 years, that we always wondered where he was buried. Last August, my people finally phoned me, said, oh, we found your dad's grave. Said, you want to go to Edmonton? There are other people too that they found, so we're going to go to Edmonton and have ceremonies for them and a laying of headstones. So, okay, that's what we did in last August. And I asked them, how did you find him? They said, oh, the federal government had all the information. So, they've been holding on to it for the last 60 years, more than 60 years. We got to demand the government to release all the info they have. We've got to find everyone. About my brother, he had abused. He was abused he was in the hostel, but I think I was in the Clavic day school, and he was in the Inuvik hostel. So he was abused. He put a claim in, said it happened outside of the residence. They took people out in the land to, look for, rapid trails and all that. And something happened there. And the government denied him. He said, no, it never happened in our hostel. So he passed on a few years ago. I've been the oldest, and I had 2 sisters and 4 brothers, all younger than me, and I always wondered how come they're dying, They all had a heart attack. And, my brother, the last surviving brother, they found him in a bathroom floor, curled up, and they called up my niece and said, oh, come look after your uncle. He's passed out on the floor. All this time he had a stroke. I think he had words. He could still talk. And I told Maggie, the first thing he saw my niece, Maggie, I'm not drunk. I'm having a heart attack. And I guess they finally took him they medevac him to Inuvik and then to Yellowknife. But by the time he was in Yellowknife, he was brain dead. So we had to pull the plugs because, and he died right away. It's hard to see somebody dying. They sit up and look and they're down. Gone. Yeah, I know, yes, I started hearing about bad things about the residential schools and abuse after I finished high school in 68, 69. And, people start coming out being abused, and the next thing is people are complaining about how they were treated in hostels. Started coming out when I was living in Calgary. That's bad, I never saw it, but I grew up in hostels. I guess I was one of the lucky ones that I was taken care of. My dad must have. I tell some of my friends that maybe he was a doctor, shaman. And he forced my dad, the administrator, to look after me. Yes, And I was looking at the map, burial site in Edmonton, where my dad was laid. There was about 40 other plots there, unmarked. So why don't they name them all right then and now? So people, maybe from Alberta will find out where their loved ones were buried. The government had all the information. They have to stop lying. The elected people have to stop lying. And then even going to the hospital again, I just remembered that when I was going to grade 4, my mom came crying to me and said, police said, if you don't go to the hospital in Inuvik, they're going to arrest me. That's what my mom told me. She was crying. So I said, okay, I'll go to Inuvik then. But I don't know whether the police would have arrested her if I didn't go. It's, that's a few of the bad things that I witnessed, and seeing my mother crying. Yeah, RCMP, I got no words for them. Now, after everything came out, I went back to my old ways. Ministers asked me, how come you don't go to church? I said, look, ministers like you, people like you, abused kids. If you're a man of God, why are you doing that? So, it's pretty heavy-duty stuff when you're talking like this, and it's all coming out. I think we all know what we have to do. All of you, thank you for the people here to be on the traditional territory. Thank you. In Ubik, when I went back to Ubik, elders started teaching us how to sing our songs and drum. This was in the late 80s. I lived down south all my life after I went to Calgary, and I go back up north quite a bit now, and that's where they taught us. I started making drums, and I used to mail my drums to a guy in the Tuktoyaktuk to see how it was. He said, oh yeah, you're getting there. Like it's kind of self-taught, and our people, I thank them for, they teach us how to drum and sing our songs. Okay. Yeah, I gotta go. Thank you.
Just before Karen comes up, I just want to acknowledge and respectfully thank your speakers for allowing me to manage the time like this. It certainly isn't easy to cut people off, but we do have to advance the agenda. So 2 things quickly. Everybody's familiar with the cultural supports around, green T-shirts. Call on them as you see fit. If you see somebody struggling a little bit, maybe signal one of the green shirts over to support. And lastly, we heard one cell phone ring. Can that be the last one we heard today, please? Please ensure your phones are on silent. Yeah,
I do. I like it. So I've got my phone with me, but it is on off mode, so I can keep to the 15 minutes. So I'll try and do that my best. My name is Karen Andrews. I was born in Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories, and I currently reside in Prince George. You know, you're in the presence of Aboriginal people. A good example this morning was coming down in the elevator. I'm on the 10th floor, and coming down, it stopped at every floor. And the group in the elevator, it holds about 19, and there was probably about 12, 15 of us. And every time it stopped on the floor, they said, come on in, we got room for you. They didn't want to leave anybody behind. I am so proud of being Aboriginal. I am Métis. I acknowledge the traditional unceded territory of the First Nations, where I am today and where I currently live in Prince George. I also acknowledge the kinship of the Métis people. We all have a story. This is just mine. And if we get to meet and really have time, I would really like to hear yours. My name is Karen Andrews. I am Métis and attended residential school in the early 60s at the Anglican residence Bumpus Hall in Fort Simpson in the Northwest Territories from ages 7 to 9. My dad worked as a radio operator in the far north, and he loved to move every time, a couple years, to a new station. He had itchy feet. When I was 7, we moved to Fort Wrigley in the Northwest Territories with a population at the airport of 8. There were 4 in our family. Mom wasn't very educated herself, and trying to teach my older brother and myself correspondence, it didn't work so good for either one of us. When we heard that the Indian kids just down the village, across the river, about 8 miles, went to a real school in Fort Simpson, only 200 miles away, my brother and I begged to go. My story is one that may be familiar to you, and if it is, my heart goes out to you. I said to my lawyer before a court case started when I was going through the truth and reconciliation process in Kamloops in 2009, I said to him, I can tell you where the babies are buried. Oh, no, he says. That's way too far out there. Just stick to the facts. I said, okay. At the end of the court case, the adjudicator apologized for not being able to give me the maximum money allowed. As an adult, I'd often say to my mother, how long was I at that residential school? Her answer was the same every time. Not long. Which to me meant I'd only been there a couple months because, I had very little memory of it. I had a boyfriend at the age of 14, and I said to him, if we decide to get married someday, you have to know I'm never going to have kids. We did end up getting married when I was 19, and I had my tubes tied when I was 24. This type of surgery was unheard of in the 70s for a woman in her 20s that had no children. But I am very determined once my mind is made up. Trust is another huge issue for me, especially with people in authority. Food is another trigger, as I still have the thinking sometimes that I have to eat everything put in front of me, just in case I don't get any more for a while. Except for last night. Last night was pretty good. Oh. My Auntie Eva Ledgerwood cooked on the barges in the summertime that came up the Mackenzie River to Fort Simpson. She brought me some dry meat one time. I hid it in my locker. I didn't want to share it. When I went to have some, it had maggots on it. I didn't eat the maggots, but thought about it. Instead, I just brushed them off. The dry meat was really good. My lesson, however, has served me well since then. Yeah, no matter how much I have, I will share. Until a few years ago, if I had to pack a suitcase for a trip, I always had to make sure the bedroom door was locked, because I was afraid if anybody walked in, I would do them some serious harm. And for years, I didn't know why I was so angry. I couldn't enter a church without crying, and again, I didn't know why for years. With my second marriage, we adopted a newborn baby boy. Shortly after that, I started therapy because I was afraid I would hurt our son. For years, I was in counseling. No, for about a year, I was in counseling for adult children of alcoholics. And the counselor also suggested that I attend a group session for people that had been sexually abused. I said, I don't recall that ever happening to me, but sure, I'll give it a try. And I knew I was in the right place before that session even ended. No one in the 1990s was talking about residential school. I lived in Prince Rupert at that time and heard that the Kitimat First Nations were going to do a week-long healing event on that issue. I called them up and said, yeah, I look kind of white, you know, but I did attend residential school, and asked them if I could attend their event. They not only allowed me to attend it, they housed me and fed me for that whole week as well. I am forever grateful. That was 33 years ago, and it was the start of my healing journey, which I am still on. I recently purchased Gabor Mate's latest book, The Myth of Normal, and I'd like to quote from pages 20 and 21. When a wound doesn't mend on its own, one of two things will happen. One, it can either remain raw, or most commonly, be replaced with a thick layer of scar tissue. As an open sore, it's an ongoing source of pain and a place where we can be hurt over and over again, even by the slightest stimulus. It compels us to be very vigilant, always nursing our wounds, as it were, and leaves us limited in our capacity to move flexibility and act confidently, lest we be harmed again. The scar is preferable, providing protection and holding tissues together, but it has its drawbacks. It is tight, hard, inflexible, unable to grow, a zone of numbness. The original healthy, alive flesh is not regenerated. Raw wound or scar, unresolved trauma, is a constriction of the self, both physical and psychologically. It constrains our inborn capacity and generates an enduring dissertation of our view of the world and of other people. Trauma, until we work through it, keeps us stuck in the past, robbing us of the present moment's riches, limiting who we can be. By impelling us to suppress hurt and unwanted parts of the psyche, it fragments the self. Until seen and acknowledged, it is also a barrier to growth. In many cases, as in mine, it blights the person's sense of self-worth, poisons relationships, and undermines appreciation of life itself. Early in childhood, it might even interfere with healthy brain development. And as we will witness, trauma is an antecedent and contributor to illness of all kinds through the lifespan. Taken together, these impacts constitute a major foundation impediment to flourishing for many, many people. To also quote Peter Levine, trauma is perhaps the most avoided, ignored, belittled, denied, misunderstood, and untreated cause of human suffering. I wrote a poem about 15 years ago on October the 13th, 2007, when the federal government announced that we'd be paid for having attended residential school. And if we could prove we suffered trauma, we could get paid more. Here's my poem. Karen J. Andrews, October the 13th, 2007. I guess I gotta check my time. Ooh, I'm getting close. What's it worth? My days cannot be recaptured since the time when the abuse began, 46 years ago. My walk has been in shadows since that time. I have hung my head in shame, made some very wrong choices, hurt myself, and allowed many others to impose their will upon my life. Feeling the victim, seeking out abusers with most aspects of my life, be it in a mate, a job, a friend. Now that the residential school experience is being paid for, I ponder, what's it worth? What's it worth to be constantly seeking love through sex? To be running from relationships, jobs, friends, life? To needing to be in control of everything? To thinking I was stupid because it was so hard to concentrate in school? Deciding to never bear a child because I could do it harm? To having multiple partners since I was 13? To seeking solace in a bottle, a cigarette, drugs, or a ton of chocolate? To gaining 100 pounds with each serious relationship? To being so afraid of everything, but trying to be so brave, I'd try anything. To not knowing peace, acceptance, contentment, love, self-worth. What's it worth? Be buying every self-help book, yet still feeling so empty inside. To being afraid to ask, what is it that I really, really, really want? To being afraid to say my truth to loved ones in case they leave. To starting my healing journey, then being unable to work for 15 years. To feeling less than all of my life. For not knowing who I am. What's it worth? I cry at the memories, but the tears are good ones. They bring me to a place of anger, of movement, of seeking and healing, seeking again and again and again to find me, that whole me that I know is inside, the one that walks with her head high, the one that can look you in the eye, the one that has integrity in everything she does, the one that has boundaries and they're healthy, the one that is proud of who she is and will stand up and say, what's it worth? 46 years, what's it worth? It's worth, to me, it's worth you listening. Your care and your compassion, your willingness to seek to understand. It's worth me saying, it's worth a lot. Naming my price, having my say, it's helping me find my way to be whole, to know me, to pass it on, it's worth a lot. To have you hear my words, no matter how you receive them. I know you will think of this from time to time, and I ask you to consider what you see in me, a person doing my best, a person changing the legacy of abuse, a person, not a dollar sign, a person. When that happens, we will all know what it's worth. It's worth your commitment to be kind, caring, and gentle with yourself and those around you. Thank you for your attention to my words, and my prayer for all of you. May your life be blessed as mine is now, with serenity, courage, and wisdom. Thank you.
Thanking the panelists for their tremendous courage to share their stories, share their truths. Difficult stories, difficult truths, but they must be shared, they must be heard. It's part of the healing process. Before we transition into the next piece, and the panel will be staying there for now, I'm going to invite forward Siam Tanat to share a song, to share some of her medicine, to lift us up a little bit, look after us a little bit, to wrap us in arms of healing and strength. Siam Tanat, Siam.
Hoichel Siam Siai in Agueto. I thank you for your strength to share the hard truths as was shared. I'm going to share a Spakwa Slolam, an eagle song, and it's the Slanai, it's the women's version. It was actually one of the first songs that my Chisha taught me, and I'm singing the eagle song today to ask for strength. The eagle has such high regard because it flies the highest, it sees the furthest, and when we use eagle feathers like we see for the smudging or in prayer for circle or anytime we have eagle feathers on our regalia, it helps carry our message up to the Creator. So today, right now, in transition, I'm going to ask for strength from the Spakwas to come in and take care of each and every one of us. Take care of these tears that we're sharing as well, the medicine, the healing. Hosiam.
To Iat Dalitzel, Cheryl, as well as thank you as well to our helpers. Gave us small tobacco, and I know that's helping to ground me. To Iat, thank you. I really believe there's examples every day, and our panelists have given us an example of what courage looks like. And I remember one of our esteemed leaders shared. As you turn fear around, it's courage. And I thank you for sharing with us today. To eat.